who is in charge of Manipur's law and order, right from that time, June onwards. And I said, this is an erosion of federal structures. Now, the interesting part is that the chief minister and his cabinet or government did not even utter a word. It's the strangest part. You're removing my authority as a state chief minister. There's this domain of the law and order. There is na ghar ki, na ghat ki. He seems to have some command over the lower rung police officers, but the entire running of the machinery seems to have collapsed.
So who's running Manipur today?
So that is why it is run by vicarious power from Delhi. This is a rubber stamp. It's a government, it's a proxy. It's ruled by Delhi because prime ministers and particularly prime ministers has been protected before the election. Because the entire thing would have been so embarrassing for the BJP and prime ministers. But now you have a scapegoat, a willing scapegoat who accepted that role.
Hang on, you're saying Biren Singh is a willing scapegoat?
Yes, I have said this on national media.
With me here on our podcast is Manipur MP, Congress Member of Parliament, Bimol Akoijam, someone who has been a professor and has now moved into politics. Manipur has been in strife for more than a year. And in a way, I'm sure you entered politics because you felt that you could bring that change. Do you feel, given what's happening in your state, that you've been able to do that? Or do you sometimes wonder, where have I come?
No, I think it is... I think I've taken the right decision, writing about my state or elsewhere in the country in public issues and getting involved in public movement, like participating in conferences to protest march, to public meetings. I've been doing this for almost 3 decades now. And this crisis taught me that I took this decision, and instead of shouting it from outside, it's far better to get
in the system.
In the system, and I know it will have some limitation, but move them from within. And that is one part. But other part is, I won't be getting access to people like you in national media.
That's not true. We used to talk well before you became an MP.
I know that, but it's very, limited. And I realize a certain kind of campaign has been going on. To be precise, what I strongly feel as a disinformation campaign on national media.
On Manipur.
Yeah, this crisis. And our politicians are not speaking up what they ought to speak. Parliament is to speak. If you look at the etymology of the word parliament itself, it's from an old French word parler, which means to speaking. And they don't speak.
When you spoke in Parliament the first time, it was midnight and there was hardly anybody in the house.
I know. That's the destiny, like Nehru's destiny speech. And in fact, it came to my mind when I thought about that timing. But getting back to what I was saying, so I thought, if I become an MP, then I might get access to many other platforms to say and influence the way people think and the way people take decisions. So that's it. But there is also certain kind of limitations, which is everywhere. It is there, whether you speak as a journalist or as a professor. There are constraints. So every location has, or space has its own, or platform has its own constraints. So it has it, but politics is all about testing that limit, redrawing those limits, and so on. So I'm very clear, if my concern for my home state is going to be suffocated if I'm not going to be allowed to speak within the Lakshman Rekha, and to the extent that also I can move the boundary here and there a little bit. That's what political dynamics is. If I fail to do so, and if I think that this platform doesn't help me, then I would not be hanging around just for the act of being a member of parliament, or for that matter, being part of the elect.
So for you to be in politics is very specifically about bringing change to Manipur.
I think, Barkha, actually this is what every citizen must be doing it. That's what politics is. We think this is a dirty game and so on. I mean, and in democracy, if you let those people occupy those things, in my state, we often talk about contractors becoming politicians, and if you don't have so and so amount of money, you can't be a politician. And the fact of the matter is that those guys take decisions which affects our life, right? So to partake in that and try to do your little bit to influence it is very crucial. So this crisis, as I monitor it, Manipur has this estrangement of community, the relationship between Delhi and Imphal, between the so-called mainstream or the mainland with the Northeast. This has been part of my academic intellectual concern as well. So I've observed this for more than, if you include my PhD days, it's almost like 40 years. It's an obsession with this. You study a lot. I could have shown you that book has come out on analysis of media now. I just got a copy of it, that one. So having seen that, I realized that this is a vacuum. There's a vacuum, especially from my state. So I thought that, and this crisis has revealed how serious is that vacuum can do to us.
It's a vacuum of leadership?
Yeah, it's not taking a particular kind of a political cultures. They don't speak up, they don't do things. And check and lead your people towards a particular way of looking at your life, public opinions, how to understand yourself. What is this country all about? What is Manipur? What is Manipur? What is India? What is this relationship? And what is a citizenship? What is democracy? What is to be a Northeast person from that part? And then you compare with Dalits, with the women, and what is to be a Kashmiri, and within Kashmir you can think about what is to be a Pandit. So layers, you have thought about it as a social science students, being a part of my career work also. So all these things have come to me, and I said, okay, now let me go to this space and this platform and do my bit as a citizen. That's what I'm doing it.
Now, in a letter that you released this week, which has been placed in the public domain, it's a very strongly worded letter, and you put the government on the mat and you say that the Modi government cannot allow what's happening in Manipur. And you invoke a comparison with the partition of India, the 1947 partition. Is Manipur partition today?
Yeah, effectively, that's the process. I would call it as a process. It's a process of partitions. But Barkha, I'll just draw a parallel with why I used partition. Some people might think it is hyperbole. It's not. If you really look at it, it is because I have experience of having studied the partition of 1947, the case studies and the interviews. We have, in fact, this was a project under Professor Ashish Nandi in CSTS. We have interviewed around about 1,500 witness, survivors, perpetrators.
I remember that project, and Professor Nandi used to argue that the more you bury the wounds of partition, the more you're consigned to be hurt by them.
That's what, so I was part of that project.
Memory and partition,
And, it is also part of my teaching in memory and, trauma and these areas. It's part of my academic engagement. So what is surprising, not surprising, what is unfortunate is that those case studies that I've read, real case studies to the, representation in films, in novels. And I see that exactly the same thing in my homestead. When one walked into the relief came, the memories of Kingsway came and how it came to be a cane, why this name is there. And stuff like that. I can see in flesh and blood, in my eyes, or the images of people in makeshift camps in Africa and the UN interventions. All these things came, and I said, this is it. And similarly, the political project of shifting population from one area to another, you see that images, everything has happened. And the violence, Ashish Nandi used to say, which I like, he says, partition of the subcontinent began with a riot in Kolkata and ended with genocide in Punjab, in the Western sector. And I suddenly struck me, then that's why I gave comparison, is the direct action day demanding a Muslim, homeland. Around about 10,000 people died within the span of 3 days in Kolkata. And this is like that. 3rd May, I suddenly sensed that this is like that direct action day for a separate administration. That's what I immediately sensed, because the images that came up on social media
were like that.
I realized that that's unthinkable.
Let me ask you
It
this.
is partition process. It is a process.
You are a member of parliament from Manipur, one of 2 MPs from Manipur. Are you, as a member of parliament today, able to go from Imphal, which is in the plains, to Churachandpur? Are you able to go?
No. Absolutely not.
And can someone from Churachandpur come into Imphal?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
It's that. That's why.
That's how divided. That's how divided it is.
And I was told that at least, in the lower ranks, police don't get posted. Meiteis don't get posted in Churachandpur or in Kangpokpi. Similarly, those tribes under within quote cookies. Cookies is a very fluid and controversial term. So I always use with a mug, but generally we refer as some kind of a generic terms. So these cookies don't get posted in Imphal, for example. That kind of a split. Look at the chief minister cannot even go. Forget about citizens, ordinary people. That kind of a scenario is exactly what I'm referring to as partition. And it also has another additional connotation for me, because I feel it's like my body. Manipur is like my body in that sense. You remember this is something that I wrote in my academic papers long time back. The taking away of Burma from the British India is called separation of Burma. The word is separation.
Yeah.
When the Pakistan was created, the word is not separation.
It's partition.
It is partition. So there is a body. This body
is being dismembered.
And remember that I'm sharing with you, this is the first time I'm going to say this. The people of Manipur, particularly those people who have been part and parcel of the evolution of the state, is a body. No, if anybody asks for a slice of that, would be felt exactly like the way people who use the word partition of India. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So it's not a separation, it's a partitioning, and that will call for a kind of a violence.
Yeah.
If you try to partition that. So that is exactly why I use the word. It is a partition, memories of partition.
We've seen not that peace has been there for more than a year now, but we've seen an upsurge again in violence and a hotly debated commentary on the use of drones. The former DG of the Assam Rifles, Lieutenant General Nair, he spoke to me as well. One of the arguments he made is that it's his assessment, and he was DG till the 31st of July, that while the police says that drones have been used to drop ammunition on civilian populations, he believes that the drones were not. No ordnance, no ammunition was dropped, and it coincided with the firing of the pumpy guns, which is these homemade assembled cannon guns. I'm using it loosely. You were very angry to hear General Nair's comments. Why is that?
I'm not angry. I'm disappointed.
Why?
But for two reasons. I'll tell 2 reasons. First of all, this is what he said. I've seen in one channel is exactly the proof of what I have been saying. There is not a proper coordination among the security agencies. The Assam Rifles speaks a different language. Police speaks a different language. Army speaks a different language. That particular disorientation is one of the reasons why this violence has happened the way it has. It's a complete. It is alluding to the failure of the state. You have a unified headquarters, which is popularly called Unified Command.
Command, yes.
Which has representative from the Army, from the Assam Rifles, from CRPF, BSF, intelligence, IB, and Manipur Police, and all of them. And that is, they try to, this takes care of, by the way, the expression in the paper, in official document is security and law and order. So it encompasses running this affair by coordinating it effectively. That his statement is alluding to the fact that there is no coordination because police is saying something and Assam Rifle is saying something. That's one. And second layer, what I realized that also alludes to the trust deficit that two institutions in this affair have. One is police, one is the Assam Rifles. Other central forces in general, but particularly Assam Rifles. And police, you have in Churachampur and Kangpoki. Manipur police is still there. But, when you said it, but the cookies in general have been saying that, police has sided with the Meiteis. And Meiteis generally have been saying that Assam Rifle, in particular, has been aiding, abetting, helping, on the side of the cookies. It is this trust deficit has been reinforced by what he is saying, because what he says seems to contradict with what the police, because they have the evidence.
But isn't it true?
No, let me complete this.
Yeah.
There are evidences that police have already collected.
Yeah.
And then they are saying that this is a aerial attack. And besides, there are videos and others available. There's not Pompeii only. There are, rocket launches we have seen on photographs and so on. But I don't comment on that because they should come through the official statement. So police has said it. And I realize I talked to some army officers and over the evidence that what is being dropped has a hook and so forth. So this is a drone attack. By the way, use of drone in this crisis has happened before also. Now, the last part which I wanted to tell you is that General Nair's statement almost sounds like his choice of vocabulary and the perspective that he holds on the event is not so much different from the way certain cookies have been articulating all along. So that reinforces the belief that Assam Rifles is part of the same group who have been attacking Meiteis and Manipur in particular.
So I have two questions.
Just wait.
On that. Yeah.
For our information, I wanted to. I wonder whether General Nair, I would expect him to be a little reticent about it. If he has it strongly, it's okay. It's his belief. But once the evidence comes in, it's not going to be nice for everybody. But I was also thinking that when General Nair says this, one thing struck me, that he is the boss of an organization, the oldest paramilitary force in our country. But this Assam Rifle has a schizophrenic existence. Because I said often this is like a woman with two husbands. One is under Home Ministry, and another is under the Defense Ministry. It's a kind of a split personality they have. General Nair is the head of that organization, but the operational command is not in his hand. It is with the Third Corps, the regular army. So what is happening on the ground, what are the troops are deployed, there are no daily operation, he is not involved. That operational command is with the Third Corps. So I think Assam Rifles own, so it could be that he is either misinformed. So I don't want to judge him as involved in the conflict and saying wrong things. But this can also come from the fact that there is a disjuncture between the operational aspects of the troop and the administrative aspects.
Okay, now I have some questions. Isn't it true? And certainly this was my experience from some time spent on the ground last year, not this year, that both the police and the army have got caught up in the polarized, partition-like environment. So that we also Meera Paivis, for example, many videos them confronting soldiers of the Assam Rifles. And we saw many women of the Kuki community confronting Manipur police. I have seen this myself.
Yeah, they also confront the army.
Yes. Now, when I asked General Nair, he said that, look, you think that we are criticized only by the Meitei community. Even the Kuki community criticizes us. We get attacked, criticized by both sides. This is what he said. Secondly, I'm asking you, isn't the biggest and the most dangerous thing that both of these security forces are today caught up in the polarization, whether they want to be or not? And isn't this a failure of politics? The police and the army, are they to fix this problem?
No, I would not leave the officers in charge of these institutions completely free. I have observed that, even the American troops who are involved in Gulf or in Afghanistan dealing with counterinsurgency measures, they are not within the hot war, as in the military vocabulary, the hot war or the pure war. They are not there. So they are in a very different situations. So they're dealing with that kind of a challenge. I think they have failed.
Who has failed?
These officials who are in charge of the Assam
The
Rifles
police
and
and the army have failed.
particularly Assam Rifles, and army
Has
also.
has the police not failed? The police
That's
could
what
not
I
contain.
said. That's what I
Yeah.
said. Those people who are running these institutions,
Okay.
police and Assam Rifles and army even. That's why I say they are not in hot war. It is not a pure war they are engaging with. So it calls for a very different kind of engagement. And that I don't see that one. When an army releases a video about this Mera Paibis obstructing them and so on, I think they should have gone through the unified headquarters and mediated by the political staff listening. Because once you release that, it is lapped up by the people in conflict and use it as to demonize the others. And so it aggravates. They should have hold it back. Their job is, I saw an army officers doing like this, and which is completely unacceptable to me. What you expect is you see a very senior seasoned police officers who handling that kind of a crisis will maintain that calm, composures, absorb the things. You don't tease people like that. And in one of the interviews of Jen and I, he said, look at that, some people are pushing. That's part of the thing, but he did it before like this, before these women were pushing him. But you should not be going into that line of an argument. Rather, you should be saying that why he should be handling it like that. It's all agitated, everybody is charged up. So the officers must have their composures to deal with it. That is expected when you are not in a hot war. And that is my assumption, my feeling about the whole affair. So the first thing is that I think the top officials who are handling these forces, I think they must be held accountable. Well, whatever they say, I'm saying it in your channel today, I've said this before, whether you like it or not, despite your presence, despite your saying that we don't want to have more casualty and so on, fact remains, in your presence, for 16 months, 200 plus people have died. 60,000 people have lost homes. If you were assigned a peacekeeping force in Congo or otherwise in Rwanda, and you said that we allow this kind of a slaughtering and this kind of a thing because we were trying to avoid bloodshed and others, this is an excuse. Fact remains that you have failed.
But who does the buck stop with? Does it not stop?
I'm saying that we have to fix it. The bucks will stop at the door of this one prime ministers. I have no doubt about it. But I'm saying that the officers were not able to handle it. Now let me go to the second stage. And I was thinking, why is that? Because the Indian Army is one of the most respected professional force in the world. Why? They have experience of UN peacekeeping force and others, but in their own home, 60,000 people have lost right in front of their eyes. Right. And I've said it, APSPA ko lagu kar do this. And that's an excuse. There are APSPA operated areas in this crisis also. Otherwise also, they forget that there is CRPC 131, which enables them to act when this kind of a public...
General Nair said to me that there are many areas they can't go into because they're they're denotified areas.
That is why he's missing this point. His company is there in non-APSPA area, but under CRPC 131 section, right now it is that in new law, it is section 150, you are supposed to act and respond.
Okay, can I ask you something?
No, let me complete. Okay. So there's no excuse on this.
I've heard
so let's accept this, that, this our security forces have failed. And I've already told you that 2 voices by the police and the Assam Rifle tells you that there is no coordination in among our security forces. And many of these things happen despite their deployment.
Okay.
Now, the second part is there something above them which is restraining the army? That is what we must be asking rather than. Why is that the Indian army will not behave like this if there is no clear-cut political strategy? They will be caught because they are not in a war. If it is a war declaration, then the army headquartered in DGMO takes over and then the politicians have nothing to do with. They will deal with, once the government of the country declares war, they will do. So in their pure and hot war, they know how to do things. But here they are in a very complicated situation dealing with their own citizens. So it is this political class, they should be held responsible. Because, if I truly believe that if the political will is there, if the political executive has done it, I don't want to disclose like this because I've talked to officers as well. But many of them felt that, is it, Bimol sir, once ye to hum thik kar sakta hai, but there's no clear-cut thing coming in, and this is ultimately a political situation. They have to handle it. So there is a confusion in the manner in which this has been managed. So the fault ultimately lies with the political bosses here.
That was going to be my question. That while we can debate the role of the Assam Rifles, the role of the police, what they should have done, what they didn't do, how do you see the role of the Chief Minister?
No, I think this is the most interesting part.
Because?
I'll tell you, at the beginning of the crisis itself, I was aware of one thing, that the change of DGP, appointment of Mr. Kuldeep Singh as the chairman of the Unified Command.
Yeah.
Okay. Not the appointment as a security advisor. We need to know that Kuldeep Singh has dual role. And not many people seem to know this. They conflate the two. The first, he is a security advisor who was appointed on the 4th of May, a day after the flare-up. And he was appointed as the chairman of this unified headquarters on 31st May. Now he has a more executive role.
Right.
One should take over this chairmanship in that sense. Because you're coordinating and directing kahan pe shortcomings, say what kya karna hai, all these things he will be doing with the security forces. Now, I realized that why they have removed the chief ministers from here. And then people were saying that there is Article 355 being imposed. Then I was hunting for the papers. Then I discovered that the order of appointments, all of them, DZ, Chief Secretary, Chairman of the Unified Command, everything is issued through the government of Manipur, through the governor. Now I said, that's why I keep on asking, who is in charge of the law and order situation and security in Manipur? Is the state government still in charge or not? Or is it a rule by proxy has been done? Now, then in between the crisis, things popped up. CM ordered something, Assam Rifles did not follow the instruction. CRPF refused to follow. He sent buses, it returned from Phagoksa Ikai, and another Kanglatomi, they were stopped by the Assam Rifles and returned. A particular order issued by the CM, and you have that confrontation. So this kind of a tussle of the power structures, the machinery of the state institutions, there is a chaotic nature in this one. And I constantly sense this. So I started asking these questions. Who is in charge of Manipur's law and order? Right from that time, June onwards. And I said, this is an erosion of federal structures. Now, the interesting part is that the chief minister and his cabinet or government did not even utter a word. It's the strangest part. You're removing my authority as a state chief minister. There's this domain of the law and order. There is na ghar ki, na ghat ki. He seems to have some command over the lower rung police officers, but the entire running of the machinery seems to have collapsed.
So who's running Manipur today?
So that is why it is run by vicarious power from Delhi. That's why I said, I remember one of the media channel, if I can take the name, the journalist who asked me this question, Rajiv Sadisai once asked me on his television. This is much before I joined politics. He said, President rule hona chahiye karna. I said, you're asking me wrong question. This is a rubber stamp. It's a government, it's a proxy. It's ruled by Delhi because prime ministers and particularly prime ministers has been protected before the election. Because the entire thing would have been so embarrassing for the BJP and prime ministers. But now you have a scapegoat, a willing scapegoat who accepted that role.
Hang on, you're saying Biren Singh is a willing scapegoat?
Yes, I have said this on national media.
How is he a scapegoat? What is his own responsibility? Why doesn't he resign?
That is what I said. He should have stood up. I would not have allowed my power to be gone like this. Why should I be like this? He should have resigned. Neither he does that. He comes out and said in one of the press conferences, I don't want to talk about him actually. At least I think he's a small-time player is what I come to know now. Because the real player is Delhi. Is this Home Minister and Prime Minister. They're playing this game. And now that this government is saying that, unified command is humse nikal diya, my hands and legs are tight. Now he's saying it. I've been saying that why did not he stood up?
So what does Delhi want?
So I'm saying it that there is a fractured nature, the institutional, institutions were not allowed to function normally. Remember that Mr. Amit Shah said on the floor of the House in Parliament, says, the CM is cooperating, why should we impose president rule? So quite obvious, you appoint, you dictate terms and said, appoint this, appoint this, appoint this, appoint that. So, and then CM doesn't have a command over this unified command to control the law and order situation, but he's been popped up there. And
Why?
I said it's a convenient tool.
What is the aim of propping him up?
Yeah, I said two things. This is protecting Mr. Modi and Mr. Amit Shah before the Lok Sabha election.
Now
they are trying to pressure him something. That's why I sense it. This time, because you remember that 100 days promise? Now this 15th of September is the 100th day. So now let's see. I get the feeling that this new, this one, escalation of violence, I realize that this could be connected to the fact that the central government must be doing something to enter now fully upfront rather than playing it from behind.
Let me ask you this.
Barkha, just let me tell you, this is something that if you've been following it, there was a press conference once, there was a hue and cry in Manipur. He came out and said that I'll take charge of the valley and Amit Shah is going to look after the hill areas. And people were shocked. Is this already, you're saying that this partition, one run by the chief minister who is a Maitai and hill is under Delhi kind of thing. So there has been, and if you investigate, you will find that's what the things are coming up. The order on paper, law and order is still with the government of Manipur. But in de facto, we know that it is not with him. But our problem is twofold. Here is a chief minister of a state who did not stood up. That why, remember that law and order and this power of the state in Constituent Assembly, Dr. Ambedkar said this is the sovereign and plenary power of the state. It cannot be eroded. Precisely that is why Article 257A was repealed in 44th Amendment in 1978.
Yeah.
Because, so therefore, there is a de facto play. No, this is the first mistake, the chaotic nature. That's why I said police and Assam Rifles not able to do it. And at the same time, at the administration level, you popped up him. So it's a convenient for them, said, Maitai CM. So nobody points finger at Modi throughout. So Biren becomes that convenient facade to protect the central government. Yeah. In the process, what, one little player is doing his own game in the whole crisis, and center is doing an unprecedented way of subverting the constitutional mechanism. In the process, we, not in the rest of the country, we lost life, and 60,000 people lost their homes.
What do you make of the allegation that has resurfaced about the audio tapes and Mr. Biren Singh?
They said it is, what is that, doctored? I think let me investigate it. It doesn't matter to me. For me, more crucial part is, why was this allowed? If the government of India thinks that this is law and order is completely gone, they should have done what is required to be done. They didn't do it. And the rest of the countries, after this guy, without realizing the subversion that the center has played out, I said in a very, what should I say, factual manner, I said today this erosion may be Manipur, when the central power is so dominating and you have a weak who can be ordered, dictated by the Delhi, you can always subvert the federal structures. And Manipur is a classic example. But my problem is not only this. The subversion of the constitutional mechanism has resulted into a chaos for 16 months. 60,000 people have lost their homes.
Yeah.
You see, that is why everybody must look at it. I'm not absorbing the state government. I'm saying they are playing a small part.
Yeah. Can I ask you, what about the weapons in the hands of civilians, right? Both communities, civilians are armed, weapons are looted. And when you talk to the Kukis, they'll say, oh, the Arambai Tengol controls the MLAs today. When you talk to the Meiteis, they'll say these are Kuki, they call them Kuki militants. This is the kind of language that has now entered our lexicon. When you look at this phenomena of armed civilian groups,
That's what I said. I have been saying this since the beginning of the crisis. People armed to the teeth are roaming around. It's like a civil war situation. It's like Rwanda. I have been saying this. Nobody cares about this. this situation, rather than trying to project, I've seen a lot of media in that study I was talking about it. We knew that there have been M16 rifles, AK-47 rifles. On the 3rd of May, there is the first picture that pops up on the social media available is in Torbung areas, man armed with AK-47. Those are identified. It seems that somebody told me that even they have the name of the person and so on. This was presented saying that Maitai, armed Maitai so-and-so, disturbing peaceful rally. Whereas it was the Kuki armed men on 3rd afternoon, this image. And we know that particular Twitter handle. It was a blue mark, now it's gone. The blue mark is removed. It was widely spread out, saying that it is Maitai attacking them. The ulta, it is actually those 3 armed men were not Maitais.
But both sides have
I'm saying that this
are armed.
No, I'm saying that. I'm not denying that. I'm just giving you how the narrative was set up. And then we were all caught up. No, Maitais are the perpetrators. Oh, no, cookies are the perpetrators. I was raising a fundamental questions beyond this. Okay. I said, why do you allow armed men to roam around free and then claim state must assert? My first national interview on national media, I said this violence should have been reined in. That was even in May 21st.
Okay, we are now in 2000.
No. We don't rein in the violence. Instead, we say cookie.
I agree.
All of us should have said, why does the state allows
the writ of the state, the writ of the state and the authority of the state failed. That is clear to anyone who's looking at this.
It's not stop at that. Why?
I don't know what the end game is.
That should be the question rather than
why?
Is the cookie on the force?
You tell me why.
Or the Maitais are on the force?
You tell me in the end, as we close this conversation for now, where do we go from here?
No, I'll say the 2-3 things. Yeah. Now that we are at the fact end of this, what I'm sensing it, इससे ज़्यादा नहीं हो पाएगा. The only thing is that it can turn 2-3 direction. The crisis. First, what we should be doing is, what should have been raised constantly is that why the state has failed to rein in the violence. You should do it. But the old media is a minority is being tortured. The majority is doing it. Hindus are in danger. Christian minorities is in danger. That's what the entire country was playing. And I was raising a voice saying the state must assert its authority. I've said from Weber, state is precisely state because it monopolized the legitimate use of physical force. Yeah. And it should be doing it. You check all my interviews from the first one, which telecasted on 21st March 2023. Consistently, I've been saying the state must rein in the violence. But everywhere, even when I do this on Twitter, this communal mindset that, Bimol is a Maitai, he wants to blah, blah, instead of looking at that. And now there's some Maitai says, I don't take the name of Cookie when I abuse them or something like that. He's not abusing them. And another says, Cookies has bought them, this guy. And all along, even today, all my things without looking at what I'm saying, he's a Maitai, he's a Maitai. And I'm saying that the state should have intervened. Now the question I'll answer what I think. I'm not saying that my assessment is, gospel truth, but the way I have observed things, the first thing I realized, this is the larger plan behind it, larger plan to split Manipur, to resolve some issues of demands of certain groups. Separate administration, one of them, until unless you make them fight in this scale, there will be, your rationale for arguing that separate administration will be less. So some vested interests have been involved. That is, I flagged off from the day one. 2, the government of India is part of that game.
Why?
They are trying to resolve.
But what would they get out of this game?
Obviously, see, this is, if you resolve a conflict in this manner, is fair, there's a savior and so on and so forth. If they say otherwise, I'll always ask them, why didn't you stop it from the day one? Because there are indications of that. There are Kuki armed groups have supported BJP government in 17 and 2022, promising them that we will address your demand if you help us in election. These armed groups, Kuki armed groups. It is there in the newspaper. You Google it and you will see. You can play as you do this interview, play those things on the Google, that there's all these two groups saying we support BJP. And one of them came out in an affidavit saying that we met so-and-so BJP guys, you are not doing anything now. So this particular aspect must be investigated. So the first game is this one, I realize it. And I've said in that interview, so some X will come up as a savior of this community, Y as the savior of this community, and they consolidate their position as a leader in future settled political dynamics. That's a particular political project. Third, I realized that who benefited from this crisis all along and central government not intervening. I realized that BJP, particularly Prime Minister and Home Ministers, were spotless. Kyun? Ye Biren, Maitai, CM, fault, communal. Nobody looked at this fact that why they didn't intervene. Why they did not intervene is a fundamental questions. Instead, if you have found it out, then you will realize probably that they tried to have this image of the Prime Minister and the Home Minister clean. And all the fault can go to Mr. Biren. And that is why Biren was so passionately defending Modi, despite the fact that he has not given an appointment with him. He said, "Kya muh dikha ke chale jao main uske paas baat karne." Wo assembly mein bola aisa. He said, what kind of a face should I take to talk to the Prime Minister? You guys have abused him so much.
Yeah.
Am I making sense? So it's a passionately. So this is the game plan that I realized. But there are other issues. Like many observers feel that there is an illicit drug issues are involved here. And many big players are, of the political class, not only in the state, outside of the state. I don't know how true is this, but observers have been hinting at this, and that's why this has, go on.
Briefly, because
no,
I have
let
to
me finish.
Okay,
One,
sorry.
it also trying to finish the political armed groups among the Maitais, because they are the one who refuse to talk to the government of India. So they think that some observers also feel that it is to neutralize them. Now then it is successful. Their frontal organization is not the only voice in Manipur you have. They are not the only armed groups. So they have successfully counterbalance that kind of a forces. So there are various theories along with these theories. These are the issues. What we need to do is this investigation, let it go on. And I'm saying that whatever theory that you explain now, I'm still saying through you, please, through my letter that I have given clear cut, it's time for your Lok Sabha election is over. Whatever game plan you have to do it, think of the future, take the healing process and rein in. I'm still saying rein in the violence, take a decisive and judicious action. What they are doing is still playing games. You remove some village guards or Maitai villages. I talked to Kuldeep Singh on this. And there is indication saying that whenever you remove this village guard from the peripheral Maitai villages, it is exactly those villages where the attack was launched.
Okay.
So you crack down with a sense of judicious, not siding on, you should not come up as if you are siding with one group.
It is too grave a situation. I hope your passion and your anger is heeded. I hope that there is some improvement. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.